and I left off with where this was another example of another student project where they did Fallout style of Act 4, Scene 3. So in this next slide, we'll take a look at what I put up on the board, the assigned groups, and then of course the style. They definitely had the option to pick what style they wanted to do. Some kids started out with SpongeBob, but then changed their mind. Somebody decided to do a Renaissance or a Renaissance themed, like the actual play of Macbeth. But when they prompted the LLM or the text to video generator, they came up with more of a Victorian theme, and they weren't quite sure on how they really didn't know the difference between Victorian and Renaissance. So that provided multiple opportunities for me to have conversations with them and formatively assess their understanding of the literary time periods. I also put up on the board the learning targets for my 12th grade class, and also those are my Georgia standards, but also ISTE standards and how they're a knowledge constructor, and they were a creative communicator, because I was enabling them to use the multi-modal format for them to create a video versus having to write an essay or having to answer a selected response or multiple choice test. This is really moving away from those from those types of assessments that we're most familiar with, and asking them to create something or to design something or to develop something where they're still really having awesome critical thinking skills, but they're enjoying it along the way. And it's not to say that they did not have a productive struggle, because they really did. We had to learn how to use the platform. We had to learn how to use movie terminology and scene terminology. So I gave them a handout on how to put some of those terms into the LLM so that they can, or large language models, so that they can get accustomed to getting the scenes to be created. So what they produced, as you can tell there, that happened in like 3 days. And that's what really shortened the time frame. Think about how long it might take to make an actual movie. You've got to do a storyboard. They might have had to do dialogue and actors acting things out. So this skipped all of that and was able to shorten it down into a really short time period. Not to mention the fact that they were getting ready to graduate in 2 weeks. And, we might be familiar with the term senioritis, and these kids were no different. They had senioritis, but they did an amazing job. But it gave them agency of their learning. So why did I create it? And why am I asking you to do the same? Is to just kind of think outside the box for how you're going to approach your classroom, your students in your classes. I know most of you will have middle school students, but our kids these days, they have some phenomenal skills, and they really, really are very adept at using technology. But walking them through how to use this technology and how to use their devices is very, very, very cool. And you've got the opportunity to really share with them. And also, I didn't know everything. So what was really cool about this was they taught me things. So this young man right here, this is some skill-based content creation. Obviously, this is a text to image generator on the left, and I'm looking really very much for them to have some skills that they will need in their future, and using some of the traditional teaching methods, but also getting them to learn for some things that they can be marketable when they graduate high school. And on the right hand side here, you can see on the screen where the student's got the iPad, he's got Pika Art up, and then he's also got the prompt book, which is the Folger Shakespeare book with all the dialogue, and he knows what he wants it to do, so he's got a plan. Okay, he's got a plan, and that's putting critical thinking, because you're looking at understanding the text of Shakespeare, which is difficult into itself, but also he's relying some other skills that are, like I said, very contemporary skills that he can use from the moment that he steps outside and after graduation. Okay, and then the fifth act, I used a project called McBot, which is definitely another type of teaching method, but they had to know the scene of Act 5 in McBot. They read it with their groups, and I had them coding bird brain Finch robots to act out scenes in Macbeth. Okay, so this was my introduction to computational thinking. And I mentioned last week that we weren't going to have an entire excursion on this, but this is how I am integrating computational thinking and computer science principles into an English language arts curriculum. Okay, so this is using computational thinking to teach AI literacy. So if we look at pattern recognition, we look at algorithm design, abstraction, and decomposition, we can make a case for all of this in teaching Macbeth. So for instance, we talk about syntax and inverted syntax, and why is language important, and why is the structure of language important? And back in the day, some of us might have even had to diagram sentences. Why do you put an adverb here? Why do you do subject there? Why do you have a verb here? Well, the language models are built on that. They rely on the fact that there's a structure to the English language, but also in computer coding, code is a language, right? So we are having that communication and intertwining it throughout the conversation of our regular English language instruction, but we're leaning on how computer science like Java or any of the other languages that are out there are a language, but they have to have a foundation of why they operate the way that they do. They look different, but they truly have a structure. And then again, with the algorithmic design, these are basic AI terms where you have a set of instructions, and the set of instructions I'm giving them, but also the instructions to tell the robots what they need to do. So what was the objective of this part of the lesson was they had to write code to get the robots to act out the scene that they were assigned in Macbeth. So for instance, let's just take the scene where Lady Macbeth kills herself, and she's washing the blood off of her hands, and she says, "Out damn spot." Well, a group of kids, I would look for them to use symbolism, and maybe they're going to program their robot to blink red to indicate that she's swirling down into a pool of madness. She's trying to wash the blood. Obviously, the red is symbolic for the blood off of her hands. Maybe the robot's going to spin around in a circle, signifying that she's sleepwalking or she's going crazy. It's really up into the interpretation of what the student wants to do at that point. And then, of course, this is very abstract thinking, and they're looking at creating code with multiple different ways of looking at things. And then they're deconstructing it. We call it deconstructing it in English language arts, but they're looking at breaking big problems into smaller, more manageable tasks. And this is huge. I mean, this type of thinking is really huge for students because it's not your traditional English language arts type of framework of teaching, but it's crossing all different types of ways to get the kids to really stretch their brain and their pliability of their way of comprehending things. This is really good for our logical thinkers. Maybe we might call them our left brain thinkers or mathematical thinkers. At the same time, where they're working in a group with students who might be more of the creative sort. Maybe they have a little bit more of we might call that warm and fuzzy type feeling we talk about in humanities. Okay, the writing, I felt that they needed some writing component where they had discussion groups, and I had discussion posts on our learning management system, and then I can go in there and evaluate the rigor and how robust their discussion posts were. So that gave them a framework for what I was looking for. And then also here's an example of what the prompt book looked like when they annotated and blocked their scenes, because they learned how to do that in Act 3 for their scene on the stage, but they also had to block the scene out for their robots to act them out, or to let them act out in the classroom. So this is coding and problem solving here with the FinchBot ones. They were connected by a tether to a laptop that was a PC-based laptop, but also here's the code in Snap. You could see this how they wrote in Snap, which is very basic. You just drag the operators over, and then with the operators and what you would like them to do to build on itself. And it's super easy for middle school kids. It's super easy for almost anybody to play around in it and to get the robots to move forward and backward. And as you can see here in this image, you've got them blinking red and green lights. And then I was able to give you an idea here. Okay, so this original idea is one that I discovered online because how I got started with integrating computational thinking or computer science into my ELA class was my students were reading Shakespeare, and of course, by the time you get to Act Five, they're really over listening to it on tape or doing a movie comparison, and I really needed to find something fresh. So I looked around online and found this amazing project that two professors in New York had created. And Dr. Ardito was one of the people who originally worked with Dr. Lynch. Originally, they were at Pace University, and I said, "Oh man, really looks cool," and I'm just going to try this out. And fortunately, I was able to talk to the teachers in our computer science department, and they were teaching APCSP, and they had these little robots, which were pretty awesome. And so what I did was I leveraged that and did this project at one school, and then I went on to do it at the school that I'm currently at. And this is a different version of the FinchBot, and these are run via Bluetooth. So at my school, we're a one-to-one district, but what you can see here is I have 11 robots. And again, the students were broken out into groups and they were assigned a scene, but they've marked the floor right here so that the robots can pick the sensor, but they can also say, okay, well, Lady McBot will come in from stage right, and then she's going to meet with Macbeth at center stage, and then they are going to have this conversation, and they voiced over with, with their phones or whatever, to say it themselves. So that, again, they're speaking the Shakespearean dialect, but they do the same thing here. So what you have here is, again, you're welcome to watch it and see what I did with that. But the iPad connects to the robots and by Bluetooth, and they use the Bird Block app on their iPad. So it's just, again, extending a traditional method of teaching and really, really getting to think outside the box here to reimagine learning. And again, in this case, we're talking about coding and syntax and the structure of the language, and why is it important to us to use this? And it's ideally placed in an ELA class, and in this case, an English literature class, and it's not something that's seen quite often. So I thought it'd be worth sharing. Now, this is a very extensive project that I did with my students. That it took over 3 weeks, and I am a veteran teacher, and I am expecting from you not something at this extraordinary level, but at least to try to integrate AI literacy, to let our students know that it is important to know about how AI is working on their phone, whether they have an iPhone and there's Apple Intelligence on there, or they're out there using ChatGPT and this is what's happening. It's not alive. It's something that is predicting what text is supposed to come next, and getting them to know like what is really happening behind the scenes. It's not magic. It's intentional. And so the resources and the links that I've put up into the class this week are really important for you to review and evaluate and try to use so that you can develop your own program like this. Okay, this lesson or these lessons. Again, I'm going to say this was the first iteration of using Gen AI to create a movie from a selection of literature. You can use any selection of literature that you like if you're an ELA teacher. And again, think outside the box for a favorite lesson that you might have taken or given or shared or taught in your class, and how can you reimagine it using AI? Not letting the AI do the work for you, but teaching AI literacy amongst it. See, I just totally integrated all the AI terms or the terminology so that we can get our students accustomed to knowing, like when you see a deep fake or when you see something that is generated on a YouTube short, that it's created by an AI bot and it's not created by a human. It's been auto-generated. So I'm really, really excited to see what you all come up with. And I look to see, if you have any questions, please call me, text me, email me this week. There's a generous amount of reading and some videos to watch. and I do hope that you preview them. Now I know that we're coming up on our Thanksgiving break, and I 100% plan that this will be due not this week, but the 22nd, which will be Friday the 22nd, so that you have a full week off for Thanksgiving. You can enjoy time with your family, and that way we'll come in after Thanksgiving break and do one more week of instruction, and then put everything together in a portfolio. Which, these are the artifacts that you've already created, and I think it's going to be awesome. And you'll have some really nice tools that you can use, and projects that you can use in your actual teaching practice. And I really, really appreciate all the hard work that you've done so far. If you have any questions, please call me, text me, or email me, and I look forward to seeing what you create this week. Take care.